I barely survived getting hit by a truck. Then I found out my wife was cheating on me while I was laid up in a hospital bed, and if that wasn't enough, she tried to divorce me and take everything I owned. But in the end, she was the one begging and crying for me to come back. Too late. Hi, I'm Daniel. I used to believe in soulmates, karma, and all that romantic stuff you see in movies. Then I met Emma, my ex-wife, in a masterclass in betrayal. Imagine being hit by a car and then hit harder by the person you thought loved you. That was me getting screwed by fate than by Emma. She cheated on me while I was laid up in a hospital bed. And as if that wasn't enough, she tried to strip me of everything I owned like she was looting a corpse. This is the story of how I burned it all down. Let's turn time back. Emma and I were together for 5 years, married for 3. On the surface, we looked like that annoyingly perfect couple, laughing at brunch, matching Halloween costumes, all that crap. She was sharp, beautiful, and knew how to command a room. I was the grounded one, the guy who paid the bills, cooked dinner. We met at a mutual friend's bonfire party. She spilled beer on me and offered to clean it off. Cheesy, right? It worked. We hit it off. Fell fast, got married too quickly. She worked in PR, and I was in IT. Our house had a cozy vibe. We were saving for a trip to Europe. But under that polished exterior, there were cracks I ignored. Her girls' nights were happening more. She got really good at hiding her phone. When I asked questions, I got sarcasm in return. God, you're acting paranoid again. So I backed off, like a fool. One rainy Thursday, I was driving back from a late work. Visibility was garbage, and some jackass in a lifted truck ran a red light and plowed right into my side. I remember the crunch of metal, the spinning, the sheer force ripping my body sideways, and then black. No sound, no pain, just sudden, eerie silence. I woke up 3 days later in a hospital room with a morphine drip in my arm and the voice of some nurse named Nora gently asking me if I knew my name. My ribs were broken, my leg was shattered in 3 places, and my shoulder was wrecked. They said I was lucky to be alive. I didn't feel lucky. I felt like someone had hit the pause button on my entire life, and I was watching everything fall apart in slow motion. Emma was there the first 2 days, crying, holding my hand, acting like the perfect wife. She brought me flowers, posted some sappy Instagram story about praying for her husband. But on day 3, she just stopped showing up. No explanation, no text, just gone. I blamed it on stress. I blamed it on her job. I blamed everything except the obvious. Nora noticed. "Your wife coming by today?" she'd ask softly, like she didn't want to make it worse. I'd shrug. Probably busy. But I saw the pity in her eyes. Nora wasn't just my nurse. She became my lifeline. She adjusted my pillows, cracked dry jokes, and even smuggled in some god-tier coffee from the cafe down the block. She never said anything bad about Emma. She didn't have to. Her silence spoke louder than any judgment. Late at night, I'd lie awake and wonder, is this what love turns into when shit hits the fan? An Instagram story and radio silence? I was still broken, inside and out. But something was starting to wake up in me. Something angry. Something sharp. I was out of the hospital after 3 weeks. Wheelchair-bound, stitched up, and stuck at home. Emma was distant. She'd drop off food, say a few words, then vanish for hours. She blamed client meetings or urgent projects. Her phone always on silent. Screen flipped face down. You know, classic cheater tactics. One night, I woke up from a nightmare, probably a side effect of the meds, and realized I hadn't seen my phone in 2 days. I rolled into the living room to grab it, and there it was, on the charger, next to hers. She'd used my charger. Bless her lazy, cheating heart. I don't know what possessed me, but I picked up her phone. The lock screen pinged a notification from someone named Jamie. My stomach twisted. I opened the messages. I know, privacy, blah blah. But trust me, if you ever suspect your partner's cheating and you find something, it's no longer about morals. It was all there. Sexting, nudes, him calling her my baby girl, her calling him daddy. I almost puked. Messages about how annoying Danielle is and how she was just waiting for him to be stable enough to start the divorce. My favorite? A video of them at our house, on our couch, watching our goddamn Netflix account. She even dared to wear one of my shirts in the video, said it smelled like him, and then giggled like it was a joke. That moment did something to me. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was furious. There was no respect left, no love, no dignity. Just ego and betrayal. I snapped. Not physically, I was still broken, but mentally? Oh, I lit on fire. But I didn't confront her right away. No, that would have been too easy. I wanted her to feel safe, relaxed, comfortable. So the betrayal would cut deeper when I pulled the rug. I screenshotted everything, backed it up in multiple drives, cloud accounts, and even printed out the best parts like a damn dossier. I emailed it to myself under the subject line, leverage. Because that's exactly what it was. The next morning, I smiled when she kissed my cheek and said she was heading to yoga. No, I know, you were heading to Jamie. I confronted her a few days later. Calm, controlled, phone in hand. Emma, who's Jamie? She blinked. Who? I showed her the messages. Her face went white, then red, then something worse, calculated. Oh my God, Danielle. Are you seriously spying on me now? I stared at her. You're cheating on me. You invaded my privacy. She said, while you were riding Jamie on the couch, I paid for? She crossed her arms. Maybe if you weren't so emotionally distant, I wouldn't have needed to. And there it was, the Olympic-level gaslighting. I was the villain now. She was the victim. She twisted everything. I didn't love her enough. I wasn't fun anymore. I was obsessed with work. She felt invisible during my recovery. I wasn't a man anymore. Yeah, apparently breaking my femur meant I no longer qualified. You don't even see me anymore, Danielle. You're just this sad, broken man lying in bed all day. I got hit by a damn truck, Emma. Exactly. And I was the one taking care of everything. The bills, the house. You were sucking Jamie's face in my living room. She stormed out after that, slamming the door like she was the one betrayed. The next morning, divorce papers on the kitchen counter. No note, no apology, just that cold, smug silence that said, "This is your fault." Then came the smear campaign. Emma went full PR mode. She told our friends and family that I was mentally unstable, that I had become emotionally abusive, that I checked out of the marriage. She cried to people who had never even called to check on me in the hospital. She painted herself as this brave, broken woman who had to cheat to survive my neglect. I started getting weird texts from mutual friends. Vague judgment, subtle pity. One even said, maybe it's better this way. She deserves happiness too. Like she'd just rescued herself from a burning building instead of setting fire to mine. And every time I tried to speak up, I sounded defensive, bitter, like the crazy one. She knew exactly how to spin the narrative. After all, she worked in PR. She was a pro. The kicker? She wanted the house, the car, half my insurance payout, alimony, for cheating on me while I was still learning how to walk. I realized then that Emma didn't just cheat on me. She never actually loved me. She loved the image of us. She loved what I gave her. But when I was broken, when I needed her. A month later, I got invited to a mutual friend's party, Kevin, the guy who introduced us. I didn't want to go. Everything in me said, stay home, drink whiskey, and forget these people exist. But I needed to know who still had a spine. Spoiler, not many. I showed up in jeans and a hoodie, still limping, still stitched. I brought a six-pack and a fake smile. People looked at me like I was the awkward uncle who ruins weddings. Whispers, side eyes, forced small talk. Emma was already there, of course, dressed like she was auditioning for Real Housewives, hanging off Jamie like he was the prize at the end of some twisted scavenger hunt. Someone, I think it was her friend Marissa, actually had the balls to say, "Oh wow, Danielle. Brave of you to show up." I smirked. Why? I was invited. She leaned in like a Mean Girls extra. Emma told us you were stalking her, that you were mentally unstable after the accident. That's when I realized Emma had poisoned the well. She'd fed everyone some sad girl narrative, and they drank it up like it was wine at communion. I was the villain, the bitter ex, the guy who couldn't let go. I stayed quiet most of the night, nursed a drink, listened to people laugh at jokes I used to be part of. I wasn't just being left behind, I was being erased. Then Emma made a toast, clinked her glass, raised it high, and said with full drama, to healing, to honesty, and to letting go of toxic people. Oh hell no. I clapped. Slow, sarcastic. Everyone looked at me. And I said, just loud enough to cut the music. You mean like cheating on your disabled husband and then trying to rob him blind? Dead silence. Then I pulled out my phone, mirrored it to the big screen TV. Thank God Kevin had a smart setup. One tap and boom, full projection. The messages, the nudes, her in my shirt on our couch. Proof. Emma shrieked. Jamie's jaw dropped. Marissa nearly choked on her white claw. I took a sip of my beer and said, "Looks like honesty finally showed up." She screamed at me, called me a psycho, said I violated her privacy, and stormed out like a character in a soap opera. Jamie followed, tail between his legs. The room stayed dead quiet. Someone, I think it was Kevin, muttered, "Holy shit." One of my boys fist bumped me. Legend. I drank Emma's untouched wine and left without saying another word. Mic drop. We proceed with the divorce. Emma thought she was going to gut me financially and always walk with a smirk. She expected to glide into court wearing her power heels and walk out with my house, my car, and half my accident settlement, the money I got for almost dying. She thought I'd roll over and cry. What she didn't know, what she never bothered to consider, was that I had been working behind the scenes with Nora, the nurse who'd helped me after the crash. Not in a romantic way, yet, but as a lifeline. Nora had a cousin who was a bulldog of a divorce attorney. This guy didn't blink, didn't smile, didn't talk unless there was money or strategy on the table. His name was Kyle, and when I showed him the screenshots and the financial records, he smiled for exactly 2 seconds and said, "We're going to destroy her." First, we built the case. This wasn't about being angry. This was about being precise. Kyle had me gather timestamps from my hospital stay, all communications between me and Emma during my recovery, screenshots of her text with Jamie, including the Aspen trip she funded with our joint account. Security camera footage from our doorbell cam shows Jamie walking into our house while I was still stuck in a wheelchair. We subpoenaed her bank records, found charges for lingerie, hotel rooms, spa treatments, all dated after the accident. And all of them are linked to Jamie, the human hemorrhoid. In our state, adultery can impact property division if proven. Marital misconduct matters. Even more if the cheating spouse tried to hide assets, misuse shared funds, or engage in something called dissipation of marital assets. Emma had checked every box, but we didn't show our hand early. Kyle told me to play nice and act agreeable. Let her dig her own grave, he said. Court day came, and Emma showed up like she was walking a red carpet. White blouse, high heels, fake tears. Jamie was there too, dressed like he'd never been inside a courtroom and thought cologne could replace a lawyer. I wore a plain suit, black tie, fresh haircut, limping slightly, but standing tall. She went first. Her lawyer, a polished, overconfident twit named Anthony, started with this dramatic spiel about how Emma stood by her husband during a traumatic time, only to suffer emotional abandonment, depression, and unreciprocated effort. Emma played her part perfectly, dabbed her eyes with a tissue, told the court I was cold, withdrawn, paranoid, claimed I became controlling and verbally aggressive, and I just sat there, watching her rewrite history with the confidence of a cult leader. Then it was our turn. Kyle stood up like he'd been waiting for this moment his whole life. No preamble, no theatrics. He dropped Exhibit A into the court file, screenshots of messages between Emma and Jamie, from weeks before she filed for divorce. Exhibit B, charges on our joint credit card, Aspen getaway, dinner reservations, lingerie. She'd even bought him a Rolex, paid in full. Judge raised an eyebrow. Kyle continued. He submitted proof that Emma had been using shared assets to fund her affair. Showed the judge timestamped doorbell footage of Jamie entering our house during hours when Emma told me she was at work. Kyle asked to admit video evidence. The judge allowed it. We played the clip of Emma and Jamie sitting on my couch, her in my shirt, cuddled up watching our Netflix account. It was muted, but the body language was obvious. Emma's lawyer tried to object. Invasion of privacy. Judge replied, the footage was captured in the petitioner's own home, during the marriage. Overruled. Emma started to squirm. The audience, mostly legal aides and other divorce attorneys, was suddenly much more interested in the drama. Then came the kill shot. Kyle submitted a forensic financial analysis showing Emma had drained $8,000 from our joint savings in the 2 months leading up to the divorce, almost all of it used for non-marital purposes. He used the term marital waste with surgical precision. Emma's lawyer looked like he'd just realized the Titanic was sinking and there weren't enough lifeboats. The judge was dead silent for a long time. Then he looked at Emma and said, "You were actively engaging in infidelity, misusing marital assets, and deceiving your spouse during a time when he was physically incapacitated. Do you deny this?" Emma opened her mouth, then closed it. She looked like a teenager caught sneaking in past curfew. No, Your Honor, she said. The judge's ruling was swift and savage. I kept the house. Entirely. I kept my car. I kept 100% of the insurance payout. No alimony. In fact, Emma was ordered to pay my legal fees. Emma was granted none of the disputed assets. Not a single one. Then the judge publicly reprimanded her for manipulating the court with emotional dishonesty and intentionally misrepresenting the reality of the marriage. Emma sat there, red-faced, mascara running, breathing heavy like she was about to pass out. Jamie had already slipped out halfway through, probably to throw up in the parking lot. The best part? Because she got wrecked in court, Emma's reputation in our social circle tanked. Remember those friends who believed her bullshit? Suddenly, they were deleting old photos and ghosting her. She went from queen bee to radioactive. Emma moved in with her sister. Got dumped by Jamie a week later. He didn't like being broke and publicly shamed. Her job didn't renew her contract. Word travels fast in PR. Last I heard, she was working at some boutique doing social media part-time, still trying to get people to believe she was the victim. Meanwhile, I walked out of court with my dignity, my property, and a fresh copy of the divorce decree that I planned to frame one day next to my accident x-rays. Was I bitter? Hell yes. But more than that, I was free. She tried to take everything. She ended up with nothing. Because when you screw over a man who gave you everything, you better be ready to pay interest. 2 years later, I was walking through a bookstore, something I'd started doing again just to feel human. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon, and I was thumbing through a sci-fi novel when I heard someone say my name. Danielle? I turned, and there she was, Nora, the nurse who took care of me when I was at my lowest. Same warm smile, same calm energy. She looked surprised, but genuinely happy. Nora the nurse, I grinned. We caught up over coffee at the cafe next door. She told me she'd moved back into town full-time, working at a different hospital. She asked about me, and I told her the PG version of everything that went down with Emma. She didn't pry, just listened. Like she always did. We stayed in touch. Texts turned into weekly dinners. Weekly dinners turned into weekend getaways. One night, while we were sitting on my porch watching the rain, she looked at me and said, "You know, I always knew you deserved better." And she meant it. There was no pressure, no performance. Just this steady, quiet kind of love that healed things I didn't even know were still broken. 6 months later, we officially started dating. And I finally knew what it felt like to be seen, not pitted. Loved, not used. One rainy Tuesday, because of course it was raining, I got a text from an unknown number. "Hey, it's Emma. Can we talk?" I stared at the message for a while, like it was a ghost crawling out of my past. I hadn't heard from her since the divorce, and honestly, I'd forgotten she still existed. My life had moved so far beyond her that seeing her name felt foreign. I didn't reply immediately. Curiosity got the better of me, so I checked her socials. Emma was single again. Shocking, I know. Jamie had left her for someone 10 years younger. She'd bounced around jobs. Her girl boss friend group? Gone. Now she was posting sad quotes in her stories and motivational reels about healing. A day later, she followed up. "I've done a lot of reflecting. I know I made mistakes. I miss the safety we had." I replied with 2 words. "Stay gone." Then I blocked her. That night, Nora and I cooked dinner together and watched a movie with our dog, Rocket, curled up between us. I didn't even mention the text. I didn't need to. Emma was a chapter 1 closed, locked, and threw into a fire. Let her miss the safety. I had finally found peace. Now, I'm married to Nora. We live in a quiet house with too many plants, a dog that acts like a toddler, and a future that actually feels real. Nora's pregnant, due in a few months. We've already picked names. I still have scars from the accident, both physical and emotional, but they don't hurt anymore. Sometimes I pass a mirror and barely recognize myself. Not because I've changed, but because I finally look happy. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Surviving isn't enough. You have to rebuild better, stronger. And with the right person beside you, it's not just possible. It's beautiful.